Hi guys, welcome to AndroGuider. So today we will be checking out AICP 13.1. Now this is an unofficial build of the ROM for the Redmi Note 3. This build is dated the 24th of May. So it's quite an old build. It's about 3 months old. But this was the latest build that I was able to find for my phone. But if your phone or tablet is supported officially, then the newer builds would have the latest security patches. This build has the 5th of May security patch. Alright, so most of the ROM settings are present under AICP extras, and the first thing that you will notice in here is the AICP logo itself, and this does have some visual responses to it. So when I single tap on the AICP logo, you see these colorful stars, and the color of the stars changes with each tap. So if you multiple tap, then you will get something like this, and when you long press on the logo, then you will get these floating shapes throughout your screen. And there is another Easter egg. I'm not sure that I have been able to find all the eggs, but we have this one. So when you will tap multiple times on the AICP logo in the about section, you will get this. And stuff such as this is present throughout the ROM. In fact, we have terminology such as panel porn and all that kind of stuff. We have that in AICP, and that kind of makes using AICP of fun. So I'll just press the back key for now, and this Easter egg that does continue, but for that you will have to install AICP. All right. So moving on, the first setting that we have is of hardware buttons. First up, we have got the power menu contents. So these are all the options that we have, and I flashed AICP for one of my friends. I think it was a build dated late in July, but in that build I remember that there was an option for on the go mode, but since this is an old build, there is the on the go mode is not present, but that feature is present in older builds, in newer builds. Then you have got long press the power button for triggering the torch. You can set the time limit as well. Then disable navigation buttons. Actually, I don't think this option makes sense for devices with the hardware capacitive keys, because the navigation bar is disabled by default, but we do have this option nonetheless. Then we have got an option for preventing accidental touches. Allow button backlight. Obviously, for the Redmi Note 3, this option is enabled by default. And then if you want the brightness of the backlit keys to be linked with the screen brightness, then you can enable this option. Otherwise, you can set the brightness level yourself. Backlight timeout, you can configure that. And then if you want the backlit to be the button backlight to be activated only when the buttons are touched, then you can enable this option. All right, so I will just disable that. Disable navigation buttons. Yeah, in fact, this option, it shouldn't be disable navigation keys. I think it should actually be disable hardware keys. So I think that you might just get confused, because when you enable this option, all these hardware buttons are entirely disabled. But I think they probably used the wrong words here. Probably I think it should be disable hardware keys, because when you enable that option, the hardware keys are disabled. Now, single tap action. All you can set default settings, select custom action, or launch an application. And when you will select application, it will also show you guys some. For example, I use the long press of the back button. I have set that to as hibernate. Now I use Greenify, and it isn't installed right now. But in the day before that, I was using this ROM. I had Greenify installed, and in that I had set long press of the back key to as hibernating hibernating the selected apps. Now for that, what I'm trying to tell you is that you will be able to launch activities or shortcuts by selecting application is not just for launching an application. It can be set to as for triggering activities and some shortcuts too, right? And then if you just want to launch an application, you can tap on the application option, and it will list out the application, and then you can just select the one that you want to launch. All right, and we do have an option for selecting custom actions as well, and these are the custom actions that you get. Yeah, so that's the list. Then the custom actions are similar for all the hardware keys, and you get single tap, long press, and double tap actions for all the capacitive keys. Then we have got the volume button settings. You can swap the volume buttons when the device is rotated, control the media volume by default instead of the ringer volume, then use the volume keys to awake the device, and then we have got playback control in the end. Smart bar and fling, I have already made a detailed video about it, so I'll be having that link below in case you want to know more about them. And in that video I also covered about pulse, so in case you want to check out either of these, then please refer to that video. And you have this option for configuring the portrait height and the landscape width. And then if you want the color of the navigation bar to match that of the status bar, then you can enable the dynamic navigation bar color option too. Recents, you have the clear all button, and it's enabled by default. And then we have got the 6 location pack: top right, top left, top center, bottom right, bottom left, and bottom center. And memory bar, that is disabled by default, but if you want to enable it, then this is how the memory bar looks like. And if you want to apply a custom icon pack to the recent section, then you can do that by using the icon pack option. And we also do get omni switch and slim recents. I don't use these myself personally, but just in case if you want to have a look at the options that we get in here, then this is what we have: icon size, and then you can apply an icon pack here too, background style, opacity, dim background, and buttons. This is all what we have. And you can reorder the buttons too. Then button position, style, thumbnail size, revert recent apps list. So these are all the options that we have. And active syncs, configure drag handle, and then level item limiter. The maximum value goes all the way up to 20, and the minimum is 8. Buttons, and then manage favorites, launch statistics, and then hide applications, launcher settings. So you can configure everything. This is all what we have in omni switch. Slim recents, again, I'll just let you guys have a look at all the options that we have. Expanded mode, you can also apply custom icon pack, blacklist, show the memory bar, and you can configure the colors too. All right, so that's all what we have in recents. Then we have got the status bar settings. You have a quick pull down and smart pull down, double tap to sleep gesture, system icons. You can enable or disable anything from in here. And the battery percentage, you can always show the battery percentage. I'll just enable that. And then clock options, you get the master switch for enabling or disabling the clock entirely. You can configure the alignment of the clock seconds if you want to show that, AM, PM, and we've got a couple of font sizes for that. Similarly, we have got font sizes for the date, and then we have got a bunch of date styles. Normal one and the lowercase and uppercase are pretty much obvious themselves. Then you can configure the position of the date, left of time or right of time, and we have got a bunch of date formats to choose from. So very quickly you can just have a look at all the options that we get in here. Back, then we have got the settings for status bar logo, and I'll just enable that. You can configure the color, and this is the color picker that we have. So I'll just set this to as blue, and I will apply it. And you can enter a custom hex color code if you want to. You can configure the position and style too. We just don't have the AICP logo. There are a bunch of other options too. So again, I will just scroll through the list quickly. All right. Then you can enable or disable the VoLTE icon, show the net activity in the status bar, and by default the net activity is hidden. And for some reason, I don't know, when the activity is set to as 0, when the net activity auto hide threshold is set to as 0, the I think the network indicators should be shown, because the auto hide threshold is set to as 0, but for some reason they aren't shown. I don't know why, probably a bug, but I'm not sure whether this was rectified in the later builds or not, but the network activity traffic indicators should be shown. Then we have got the carrier label settings. You can configure the location where the carrier label should be shown, and if you want to enter a custom carrier label, there is an option for that. Battery bar, you can configure, there are different color values, and then you can blend the color if you want to. Reverse color direction, just a pointer here is that you have to read from left to right. I think yeah, I mean, I think I recently reviewed Havoc OS, and in that we had that option from the option that was mentioned was empty to full. The arrow was inverted. It was and you had to read from right to left instead of the default that we read from left to right. But that's not the case here. So I think I probably just I remembered Havoc OS, and that's why I just thought of mentioning that. Anyway, you need not you can just read from left to right here, and you can configure the alignment of the battery bar. I'll just increase the thickness a bit so that it's clear, and I'll change the color to something like green. All right, and let me just disable the blend color option. Yeah, and this is the regular alignment, this is the center mirrored alignment, and this is the reversed alignment. And then if you also have an option for enabling the charging animation. That's all what we have under the status bar settings. Notifications, heads up, you can enable or disable them. Screen on notifications, never, always, if no media is playing. Kill app back button, the kill app button, and this will be there when you long press an app's notification. The kill app button would be shown. So there you have that kill app button, and less annoying in call notifications and ticker notifications. These are the personally these are the ones that I use. I usually have heads up notifications disabled entirely, and then you have got notifications or notification ticker options for the app notifications and music or any media that is playing there in the background. And there we have a system UI restart probably. Yeah, so I'll just open it once again, and then you have got two animation options, that is fade and scroll. Then we have got quick settings. You can set the music track title as the QS style title. So very quickly, these are the quick setting tiles that we get. These are the ones that are enabled by default. We have a tile for AICP extras and assistant and Google Feed too, and then we have got tiles for location, hotspot, nightlight, compass, and all that stuff. So you guys can just have a quick look. So these are all the options that we get, and I'll just quickly go ahead and disable the location. I'm running I'm running low on battery, so yeah. Then you have got the option for scroll through small quick setting tiles. When you enable this option, you will be able to just scroll through all the quick setting tiles. QS footer warnings, and then you can enable or disable the settings icon, running services icon, show tiles title, and this will basically just hide the quick setting labels. Yeah. And then we have got a mini mode, and what this does is it will actually remove a couple of elements it will basically remove the entire quick settings header, and you'll just get the panel itself. And then you can configure the grid size in both the landscape as well as the portrait mode. Alright, so I'll just disable the battery saver. I'll just swipe that notification away, and then we have got the settings for for the placement of the brightness icon, or you can just even disable that. And if you just want to hide the brightness slider entirely, there is an option for that too. Custom header images are there, and image collection, that is nothing but time contextual headers, and these are header images that change throughout the day. Actually, I will just explain you that by opening up the header images that we have. So we have got a couple of image packs in here, and you can in the colorful pack, and you can notice there in the name that we have got sunrise, morning, noon, afternoon, sunset, and night. So these header images would be set depending on the time of the day. So that's all what we have. These are the colorful header images. These are the nature ones, and these are the random nature ones. And random nature ones are the same as the nature header images. The only difference here is that in the random pack, the images will be selected randomly. That is, any image out of these will be selected each time you open up the quick settings panel. Poly header images, and then we have got the wavy header images pack. So beautiful collection. And if you set the header provider to as a static image, then as the name suggests, you will be that header image will remain constant throughout the day. And if you want to set any image as the static image, then you just go to that image and enable that, and just single tap on that, and we have that header image set. And you can also set a custom image if you want to. You can select any image from the gallery, and just quickly I will just select this. All right, and you can see that. All right, and then in the end you can configure the header image shadow. Then we have got Lock screen settings. Double tap to sleep is there. You can hide the status bar, enable or disable the clock widget, and there are a couple of options. And I just remember these because I flashed AICP for one of my friends and I was just having a look at the settings. You get a couple of clock styles in there. There is the this thing was introduced by Dirty Unicorns, and AICP have added this to their ROM too. There can be different clock styles such as analog clock, and I remember there was one clock that was an analog styled clock with the Spider-Man with an image of Spider-Man in the background. So yeah, there were a couple of other styles, but that is not there in this build. But the later builds of AICP do have other styles for both the clock and the date. And then you can enable or disable the alarm text, battery info, media cover art, music visualizers. You can configure the maximum number of notifications that should be shown on the lock screen. The minimum is 1. The minimum value that can be set is 1, and the maximum is 8. Then we have got ambient display settings. If you want the music ticker to be shown, then these are the options that we have. And what should be shown at the bottom of the ambient display: battery percentage, or you can show the weather info. Then, if you want the power menu or the quick settings panel to be disabled on the secure lock screen, then they are disabled by default. But if you want to enable either of them, then you can enable that option. Fingerprint authentication vibration, and then fingerprint unlock is there. That is, you would not have to enter your pin or password every time your phone boots up. Then face auto unlock is there, and face unlock worked fine. I didn't have any problems with that. And screen on fingerprint sensor will only work when the screen is on. So if you want to have that option, you can enable that. Then we have got panel pawn. These are basically settings for the volume dialog box and the power menu. You can configure the opacity of the volume dialog box. And then you can configure the corner radius, accent color. In fact, I'll just quickly go ahead and select custom color, and this is how the volume dialog box looks like. I'll just increase the dialog stroke thickness a bit, and yeah, it's the borders are more clear now. Yeah, so that's what it looks like. Then you can configure the stroke dash width, and the dialog stroke dash gap, and you can just customize the border in any way that you want. And in the end, we have similar settings for the power menu. That is, you can configure the opacity and the dim background amount. Weather settings, and this is another thing that actually the weather worked fine when I was using this ROM with GApps, but for some reason now, I don't know why, but the I wasn't able to get the weather working. But when I installed the ROM with GApps, then the weather worked absolutely fine. And the weather worked without entering a custom location in other Oreo based ROMs that I have used, and this includes Resurrection Remix and Havoc OS. I had to enter a custom location to get the weather working, but I didn't have to do anything such in AICP. The weather worked even with the automatic location. And there are two weather providers, Open Weather Map and Yahoo Weather, so you can use either of them. But there is a setting for entering API key for Open Weather Map to ensure staying below the request limit. But actually, I was able to use Open Weather Map, and that too without any API key. I'm not very sure about the limits that they are talking about with the API key, so probably I was within the limits. But yeah, the Open Weather Map was working even without entering the API key. And you can configure the weather unit, degree Celsius or Fahrenheit, and update interval can be configured as well. And if you want to enter custom location, you can obviously do that. Icon packs, you can select that. Status bar weather, you can show how you want the weather to be shown in the status bar. And then we have got options for the lock screen weather. Other UI tweaks, you can configure the dialog timeout of the volume dialog box, screenshot sound, three finger gesture, screenshot editor, and the inbuilt gallery. All right, so took a screenshot, and I'll just tap on edit, and the inbuilt gallery has a good enough editor. You can configure the filters and add a particular frame, crop the image, straighten it, rotate it, change the exposure value, contrast, vibrance, sharpness, and then in the end you can actually, I guess there was another option. There was this paint roller icon right in the end, but I know it's gone now. Anyway, the inbuilt editor is quite advanced in itself. So unless you are an advanced user, the stock gallery editor should satisfy you. Then you can launch a music app by default when headsets are connected. Show the CPU info, toast icon, wake on plug, vibrate on plug, battery saver color that can be configured, and then we have got several options for scrolling cache. Next, we have some animation settings, and this is a great thing that we have in AICP, and that is you can you can flash a custom boot animation, and I remember covering this feature up in detail in my last year review of Nougat-based AICP, and then you had to flash a zip file, and then the boot animation would be changed. And if you if you flash any custom boot animation, and if anytime you want to go back to the stock AICP boot animation, then the current boot animation would be backed up in the AICP backup folder in the internal storage. All right, then you have got Android P style animations if you want to enable them. System animations, again, we get those standard set of options, and these are the options that we have. And all the animations that we have in here, the option set is same for all of them. Screen off animation, this is the default animation. I'll quickly show you guys all the options. And yeah, the camera, we have the Snapdragon camera application, CRT, and this is how the scale animation looks like. All right, so these are all the options that we have. Then we have got settings for toast animation. You can just have a quick look at all the options. I personally prefer to have the slide right to left option, and there we have the toast icon also. And if you want to have some sort of animation for the quick setting toggles too, then there is an option for that. Flip animation, and there's the flip animation. Yeah, so and then you can also have the rotate animation, and if you enable either of those animations, you can set the animation duration and the animation interpolator. Next, we have got system behavior. These are basically settings for sensor block per package. This will just help you in saving up on some battery juice. And suspend actions, that these settings are also for saving some battery juice. These will be triggered when the screen goes off. So screen off actions delays, number of minutes to wait before performing actions after screen off, and screen on actions. Then switch to 2G, disable mobile data, and disable GPS. So basically, if you want to disable mobile data and GPS, and you know that this will just help you on saving up on the battery life when you are not using your phone. And then we have got the SLNX mode changer. You can switch from enforcing to permissive or vice versa, and if you want that option to persist across reboots, then there is an option for that right in the end. Yeah, so and in the end we have got an option for system extensions. We have got the system app remover, so if you want to remove any app, then you can do that from in here. All right, and about section, I have already shown you that. I have already covered the Easter egg. Changelog statistics, you can opt in or out of anonymous statistic reporting if you know just, but please, in my recommendation, just have this option enabled, because they don't collect any personal data, and it just helps the AICP team in keeping a track of how many installs that they have had, and you know how well a device is doing, and stuff like that. Downloads, website, G plus community, get it, and the lineage extras. And that reminds me, the ROM doesn't come with root out of the box. You will have to flash either Magisk or the Lineage Super Su add-on. By the way, links to both of these will be present right below in the description box. And weather providers, you would have to install weather providers so that you can use the if you want to, that is, if you want to use the weather service in the stock clock widget. There you can see the weather panel. If you want to use the weather option, the weather option in the stock clock widget, then you will have to add a weather provider for that. And links to all of the mentioned stuff that I am saying, these weather providers would be linked below. So if you, in case you want to install any of the weather providers, then you can just refer to the link in the description and install them from there. All right, so that's all what we have. and log that shit. And I already told you that terminologies, or in fact words, should I say, words are like these are present throughout the ROM, right? So share method, logcat, kmesg, and dmesg. So all these kinds of logs, if you want to, if you ever run into a bug and you want to report it to the developer, then you can just take either of these logs, take a logcat, enable any option, and then you can share the zip file or upload to the AICP haste. So yeah, we have an option for that, and in the end you can customize how the AICP extras should look like. This is the default option. You can see that we have got gray icons, and when I will go to more color, then that will just simply turn the color, that will set the color to as the accent color that is selected in the settings menu, that is selected under the display settings. We'll just be covering that up. Then we have got light and light with more color, and dark with more color. So I'll just go back and set it to as dark with more color. So you can see the icons are blue and the background is dark. Now display settings. So night light is present, and you can schedule that, and status off slash will turn on automatically, and then you can configure the intensity to live display. I have disabled it, but you can have it on automatic, and uh, or just set it to as set any day or night mode, whatever you want to. You can configure the color temperature too, and then we have got the configuration, the KCAL configurations. You can configure the red, green, and blue amounts for your screen style, and this is where you can set the accent color, and then styles. Basically you can set the background to as black. Now black is there for those of you who have got AMOLED screens, and light and dark options are obviously there. Sleep timeout, the maximum limit is 30 minutes and the minimum is 15 seconds. And under the rotation settings, we do have the option for 180 degrees rotation and rotating the lock screen. And double tap to wake, this works for the Redmi Note 3 users. And ambient display gestures, when you pick up or do a hand wave, or just pull the phone out from your pocket, then you can just trigger, you can just select when the ambient display should be triggered. Sound settings, and we have got volume steps here, and the minimum is 5 and the maximum is 60. And we have got media, ringer, system, voice call, notification, and alarm too, and DTMF as well. So volume steps can be configured for all of those. And in the end we have got other sounds and vibrations. So you can enable or disable dial pad tones, screen locking sounds, charging sounds, touch sounds, vibrate on tap, and the volume adjustment sounds. Under charging sounds, you can set the vibration option and even select a custom sound. All right, so I think we are pretty much done with the settings menu. And by the way, these are the settings that we have for actually I'll just quickly go ahead and set a pattern lock. And we have those 4 grid sizes: 3x3, 4x4, and 3x3, 4x4, 5x5, and 6x6. I know I've been I've been flashing a lot of Oreo based ROMs lately, and as a result I actually just have a memory of the grid sizes, of all the grid sizes, right? So make pattern visible, show pattern error, show pattern dots, those options will be shown only when you have the pattern lock enabled. And automatically lock the phone, then power button instantly locks, directly show pattern view, lock screen message, all that can be configured. And yes, privacy guard is there as well. This ROM is based on LineageOS. And under advanced settings, actually I have done a detailed video on privacy guard, so I'll be having a link to that tutorial right below in the description box, so in case you want to check that out. But with the Oreo, they have just added a couple of more options, and I'm just looking for an app using which I can show you run in background. I'll just see if I can just just pull off Chrome. Yeah, so the other options that they have added is read external storage, write to external storage, get access to the user accounts. These are a couple of options that they have added, and there were a couple of more, but you know uh, all those options would be visible with the different apps. But they have added at least some other options, so I'm not able to recall them from top of my head. I have checked out privacy guard in detail, but I'm just unable to recall all those extra options that we have. External storage and getting access to accounts was one of those few options, but definitely there have been some improvements in privacy guard, some new feature additions, some new restrictions as in comparison to nougat. So yeah, that is there, and that's all that we have in under security and privacy. And another thing, and just make sure that you please make sure that you do this, is the filling up this emergency information section. You just don't know when this might come in handy, and all this information can be accessed even when you are using a secure login such as a pattern or pin or whatever you have. This information can even be accessed from there. So just make sure that you fill this up. You just never know when this option might come in handy. Developer options, we have the advanced reboot option is present in here, and Android debugging, then allow theme apps from unknown sources. uh, and by the way, AICP, I think, yeah, and I didn't confirm this, but I'll make sure and check that out. But I think AICP does support Substratum. I'm not sure because a couple of ROMs lately they have dropped support for Substratum. So I'll make sure that I check that out. I don't know how I forgot to check out such a crucial thing, but I'll just make sure if support for Substratum is there, that will be mentioned in the description box. Otherwise, if the support is not there, even then I will mention that. All right, so then we have got some Wi-Fi and mobile data settings. Then you have got the Bluetooth codec settings, and if you want to select aptX audio, then that is present. And then you have got the animation settings, um, GPU settings. Yeah, so and then in the end, you can force allow apps on the external storage and force all the apps to be resizable for the multi-window mode. So yeah, that's pretty much all that we have in the settings menu. Then you have got audio effects, jelly browser is there, you have got the FM radio application, Snapdragon camera, uh, music player is also there, and the stock gallery application that does support swipe and seek gestures, so you can use swipe controls to control the brightness and the volume. So yeah, that's pretty much all that we have. And I also just want to show the settings, sounds and vibration, and we have got the vibration settings for we have got those call vibration settings in the dialer application. They are not there in the settings menu, but they are present. So I think we are pretty much right in the end of this video. So wallpapers, these are the ones that we get, and I think these are the ones that are present in LineageOS as well. But we have got a beautiful collection of wallpapers and widgets. These are the ones that we get. And weather widget, actually it won't work because the weather is not working, but if you do enable that widget, then you will get a forecast for the next couple of days. And the stock launcher is trebuchet. You can configure the grid size. I'll just go back again, home settings. You can configure the grid size, and option for icon pack is also there. And then you can allow the editing of the icons and widgets. Then we have got you can enable or disable the rotation of the launcher, swipe down to access the notifications tray, add icons for new apps to the home screen, show icon labels on desktop, predictive apps, show icon labels in drawer. Then there is support for adaptive icons, circle, super ellipse, squircle, and teardrop. And you can then force adaptive icons as well. And notification dots, you can just enable or disable that if you want to. And then battery light, actually I don't know, there are customizations for this too. You can select custom colors for the battery light, for the battery LED. Actually the battery LED and notification LED are just the same, but just if you want to configure colors for any of them, then you can do that. And notification light, you can configure colors for that as well. And if you just add a plus value, then you can set custom colors for all the installed apps. And less frequent notification sounds. Yeah, and you do have a notification log as well, so that's another good feature that we have. And yeah, so I think all these settings can be accessed when you just go to the notification settings, apps and notifications, and all those settings would be visible from there. Yeah, so there we have all those settings. All right, so that's all what we have in Trebuchet, and I think I have covered everything up. And the Google Feed integration is also supported in the newer versions of Trebuchet. So if you have installed G apps, if you have installed the Google app, then you will be able to access Google Now, your Google Now feed with a swipe to the right. Yeah, so I guess that pretty much sums up this video. There are no bugs in this ROM for the Redmi Note 3 users. Everything was working fine. I was able to get a day easily out of this ROM. SOT times, if again, the battery life is huge, but still, if you want to know the SOT times, I was easily able to get about a 7-hour SOT. I think 6.5 to 7 hours of screen on time on light usage, and that includes just watching YouTube videos and browsing the net, and I just do a little bit of gaming, not much, but yeah, and PUBG worked fine. Just if you want to know. Yeah, so everything was working fine with the stock kernel. I didn't modify anything. Everything was working fine. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I hope you liked it. If that was the case, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It definitely means a lot. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Thanks.